My career started as a corporate lawyer, and that wasn't a job that I was very suited to, but it took me a long time to realise that, and a longer time to have the courage to shift out of it. And so I remember really distinctly a day I was on Clapham Junction Station, a beautiful sunny Sunday afternoon. The whole world was in shorts and flip-flops carrying beer in carry bags, and I was going into work, and a train was announced going to Brighton. And I remember thinking, oh, wouldn't that be great if I was going to Brighton? And then I remember thinking, but you could, you're deciding to, you've got legs and you're deciding to do this. So I still did it. I didn't go to Brighton, but didn't have the courage for that. But that was a really big bit for me, a really big moment of realising that I was taking choices. I owned this. So the journey to become a jockey was a bet from a client who had seen me speak, and it was a £1 bet that I couldn't become a jockey riding in my first race under UK Jockey Club rules of racing on the TV within 12 months. That was the gig, and I don't think I thought I could do it. I think I was waiting. Well, I know I didn't. I was waiting for somebody to put me straight on this, and then I could give them £1, just carry on with life. But that's not what happened, because I followed the 10 rules. Rule 1 is to act boldly, to do things that you would never normally do in an attempt to get this thing started. And so my bold action was to, and it often is, to get in contact with people who might be able to help. And I had dinner with a woman called G. Armitage, and at the end, which happened through these phone calls, and at the end of that dinner she put a hand across the table and said, yeah, I think we can do it. We start on Saturday morning, 10 a.m, 7 a.m, meet me here at 7 a.m, and if we can work together on this, you'll be a jockey in 12 months. And if I shook her hand, of course, I was stuck, wasn't I? Because there was no way back. I was going to have to. There's no way you're going to let yourself down once you've shaken hands with a legend. So I was going to have to up my behaviours, and I think that's the biggest part of it of any change, is if we have the courage to commit to it and therefore change our behaviours, we get different results really quick, both from ourselves, from our own bodies, from our learnings, but also from other people around us. So that's how it started. It was a 12 months with huge highs, huge lows. And just the most incredible sense of joy for a whole team. I mean, a huge sense of satisfaction and joy when we managed to do it. So the jockey challenge was very much to prove the 10 rules. That when it came to deciding to do the free dive, that started on a personal level. It started because my daughter, who is 19 now, she was I think 11 at the time, was quite ill for a period, and she's fine now, but she was not fine. And I decided to do the free dive as a sponsored event. I thought, I scuba dived. I thought, if I can go to 30 meters, which is recreational, floor for a scuba dive without a tank, that would be amazing, right? But all the free divers just laughed, because you do that. That's a warm-up. It's not even a warm-up. So it got out of hand, and it ended up being, can you be the first one past 100? And that's what it grew to. It remained a sponsored event for a charity called Sparks, but I was very interested to test various aspects of how we manage our brains under pressure, literally as well as metaphorically, and that was a hugely enlightening experience. Oh, the main topics would be change, transformation, agility, risk, disruption, looking at challenges or situations that could seem impossible when people are being asked to make a big shift, and helping people look at that differently. It's really funny. I think the presentation style has to change for the audience that you're faced with. So I'm recently back from Orlando, 3,000 people at Disneyland, a big sales conference. Well, that's got to be a huge load of energy. People have got to come off 3 incredibly intense days feeling high and optimistic, and then spreading out across the globe to do something quite challenging. And then you can be speaking at a dinner table with 15 people at the board of an incredibly successful organisation. It's daunting enough, the fact that you're spending time with them, because you know that these are really sharp cookies, and they can stop you, just throw you out at any moment. And that is a different level of style. I'd say in general, what I attempt to do is A, get it right for the audience, but B, me as a speaker, it's pretty energetic. I love playing with dynamics with an audience, by which I mean very consciously speeding up, building the energy, getting excited, but then throwing in a pause, cutting it right down, putting in a thoughtful point after all that energy. So they think we're going on a story about free diving and horse racing, and we are, but we're building up something really profound about how you could think about the challenge that you're being faced with and that you just heard your chief exec speak about 30 minutes ago. And then at the end of that, we're going to have a long pause, and I'm going to stare you straight in the eye, and we're going to take a little bit of a roller coaster, and that might sound manipulative. I hope it doesn't, because it isn't. It's using the tools of stagecraft to help people really engage and think. And that's what I'm trying to do, not sell my way of viewing it, just have a real good think. Let's swap ideas. I think that's correct. There are only two ways that we can encourage, control, or through vicious ways try and get somebody to do what it is we want them to do, whether that's to follow a new and exciting launch of a product within an organisation, or a new way of going to market, or whatever it may be, new way of working, or whether it's something more coercive and unpleasant. And it works at home and it works in the workplace. And I think that the only two ways we've got are manipulation or inspiration. And by manipulation, I mean carrot and stick. I offer you the other half of this equation, the something that's grim if you don't look at it my way, or something very exciting if you do. And that was how we ran the industrial age, right? The industrial all of the industrial age, which we moved out of, arguably in the mid-80s, arguably some places still struggling to move out of it. So that was carrot and stick. Inspiration is where we provide a framework, the necessary ingredients for people to find their own motivation. So we've got external motivation, do it or else. Internal motivation, that'd be exciting. I could learn some new stuff. My friends are all doing it, and it'd be great on my CV, and we could win, and whatever it may be. And there's always going to be a wee bit of a mix. We're going to want to be paid right for our work, but more and more that's being called the hygiene factors, with good reason, because most of us will do really exciting, stimulating, long hours for a reasonably okay payback financially, because we want to be doing the work. We're animals, right? I mean, we're really good at being civilized, and that's one of our great achievements. But we're animals, so when we're herd animals, we operate in packs, and we have status within packs. So if I'm going to take a risk in the workplace where my status in the pack does matter, on some psychological level, as well as everyone always immediately goes to well, it matters because I'll get fired. We've got to work hard to get fired, especially if we manage our stakeholders and our risk appropriately, right? We've got to work to get fired for taking sound commercial risk. But we go there. That's not really the issue. It's not the financial risk, it's the reputation risk. It's how people might talk about me at the bar. That's what we don't like. So most of the downside of the risks that we're looking at in my kind of work of change and high performance is the risk of going out on a limb to do a better, more fantastic, great thing than I'm currently doing. And the risk with that is I might look a bit of a wally. Other people might think it's a crazy idea, and if I did go ahead, it might go wrong. It's reputational risk. We don't like that. And as soon as you point that out to people, that more people would rather ride motorbikes or go skiing or rock climbing than give a presentation, right? Because that's more scary, because that's ego rather than our bodies. We'll put our bodies on the line. We don't think about it, most of us. But ego, boy, hey. And as soon as you point that out, that's all that's going on, then people are up to give a presentation. They're out to go and create change. They get it really fast. But it's so instinctive, it's so deep within us, that we often don't even see that's what we're doing. A huge number of the people inviting me to speak now are looking at agility, innovation, rapidly changing how things are done, and whether that's in a supply chain or how we sell or market a product. Indeed, in some companies, it's a reinvention of who they are, because their market's slowly dying and they can see it, and they don't want to be a Kodak. They want to move faster. In order to do that, an increased appetite for risk has to come, and that's going to be partly financial risk. That is generally, by the time someone like me gets involved, managed and decided upon. What is very difficult is asking the the men and women who've worked in that organisation for a period of time to start making changes and to start having a different relationship with authority. And usually, not always, but usually authority is faster at getting there than everybody else is. So everyone else is still thinking, I can't talk to him because, or her because. Actually, him or her has got there because they're okay with that now. They don't need to be called sir or madam or treated special. They want to get their sleeves rolled up and do stuff, but there's still a lag in that, and that's understandable. Right? And it's for this community, it's incumbent upon that community to change the communication and help this community feel comfortable. But that appetite for risk has got to change. Will drive the successes in 5 or 10 years' time. I would say that I hope it's rammed with them, but to me, if I could ask the audience to take a point away, it would be that we set up these rules, these ideas about who we are and what we can do, and then we start living within them and complaining that life's flat. And actually, most of these have been set up to keep us safe from taking a risk. People like me can't do stuff like that, which is great, isn't it? Because now I can pick up the remote and pour myself a glass of wine, because people like me can't do that other stuff, so I get to do this stuff. And it's just amazing how frequently these rules, as I call them in my analysis, fall down when we try. So people like me who are rubbish at school at sport, we can't be jockeys. And overweight 36-year-old former lawyer me definitely can't be a jockey. Well, it turns out you can. Not necessarily a good one or a world-changing one, but you can have a go. You can experience that. And that, I think, is really exciting and really important in terms of how work is going at the moment. To have a great career, to be able to do that is really going to become fundamentally important. That would be, I think, the takeaway I'd like to ask people to leave with. I think that people respect, and therefore I get a bit of credibility for having gone out to prove ideas about risk, reputation, change, raising your performance, changing your behaviours. They're quite hard yards to walk, and I'm asking people to walk that. They want to know who are you to ask me that, I think. And when they hear about, which isn't the core of the presentation, but hear little bits about the jockey adventure, what was involved and how the rules were applied and what that required of me, ditto with the free dive. And then when they see some film, because I love showing some film of those adventures too, it's very visual, brings it to life, I get a bit of credibility, and the principles I'm speaking about get a bit of credibility. The second thing that I think works for people, and it's very funny because people are always very awkward about giving this feedback to me. People say, I hope you don't mind me saying this, but a lot of people said what they loved was, you're just ordinary. And I do love that. I'm fine with that, actually. I'm just fine with that. So they just like the fact that, I'm not a multi-billionaire who sold 14 companies and I wasn't fast-tracked at school into an Olympic. It's a lot of work to get to an Olympic medal, right? I'm not taking anything away, but I wasn't kind of a gifted sports person. I'm just a 36-year-old fat lad who was up for proving something that he was working on as a consultant, and I think they really, really like that, because that if this 36-year-old fat lad can do it, become a jockey, then maybe I can make this sales gig work, and I think they love those two parts.